Introducing a royal edict from His Royal Majesty, the King with the Golf Swing, the most bigliest crowds, the most tremendous hands, the genius with a J, His Royal Majesty, King Donald Genius Trump. Oh, sorry, sir. Would you want to read it yourself, sir?
Yes. I would prefer to read it myself. I can read very well. I'm the best at reading. Thank you. Anyway, who are you with? Are you with fake CNN? Fake news CNN? What's your name?
My name is Wesley, Your Highness. Wesley Acetaminophen.
From now on, let it be known from now on, this guy is going to be called Wesley Announcement Reader. That's because it's easier for me to pronounce. Anyway, I, Donald Genius Trump, your favorite king of all time, even more than King Kong, because nobody does kinging better, folks. Nobody. Hereby declare the following unbreakable, tremendous, and very classy laws to make America great again forever, because I'm the best at ruling, believe me. For rule number 1, no more mockery of my perfect image. All silly memes, nasty nicknames like Trumple Thinskin, Mango Mussolini, and Cankles McTater Tits, and any disrespectful talk about my flawless hair and my tremendous physique or very large hands are banned. My hands are huge, folks, the hugest. Anyone caught making fun of my golden glow or my beautiful, not at all orange complexion will be forced to watch 24 hours of my greatest speeches on a loop in a room with no Diet Coke. Number 2, mandatory applause at all rallies. Every citizen must attend my spectacular rallies and clap louder than anyone has ever clapped before. Silence or weak clapping is treason. I know when you're not clapping hard enough. I have the best ears for applause. Nobody hears better. Violators will be sentenced to clean the Mar-a-Lago golf course with a toothbrush. Number 3, all news must be tremendous. All media, especially those failing fake news outlets like CNN and the New York Times, must call me King Tremendous in every story. No more former president nonsense. I'm king forever. Any reporter who writes something I don't like will be sent to rewrite my 2016 inauguration crowd size reports until they admit it was the biggest in history. Now, the penalty for violating any of these rules, any subject who dares defy these sacred, very smart rules will face the ultimate punishment, a one-way ticket to a failing windmill farm. Windmills cause cancer, folks. I've said it for years, where they must live without Wi-Fi, mirrors, or my beautiful presence on their screens. Sad. This edict is effective immediately because I'm the king, and I say so. Nobody edicts better. It's tremendous. Signed, yours truly, your favorite king of all time, King Donald Genius Trump. Now, folks, this little skit was done in jest, sort of. And I say sort of because, well, yeah, that was ridiculous. But but in a way, it's very real. It's a very real threat when you consider that this guy is trying to lock up his opponents, his political opponents. He is trying to mobilize military forces and control the states. He has already gotten himself immunity, so he is not accountable for anything he does. He has consolidated his authority by basically neutering the House Republicans and the senatorial Senate Republicans. So there's very few people standing in his way. The only people standing in his way of becoming a king is us, is the people. Because in order for a dictator, in order for a strong man to be strong, to be powerful, he's got to get that power from somewhere. That power is given to him not by God, not by Congress, but by us. Only us, we, the people. And we are more powerful than you realize. And that's why tomorrow, tomorrow, Saturday, October 18th, will be the No Kings event marches in 2,500 plus cities all over America. It is the biggest thing that is happening possibly this entire year. And that's why MAGA, that's why Republicans are terrified, especially Trump, because this will be proof positive, visual proof. He's all about appearances. This will be visual proof that those who favor authoritarianism, those who favor fascism, they are outnumbered by those of us who love America and love democracy. So we have some things, we have some things to get into. So I hope you're ready for it, because I am. Let's go. Storytime. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Storytime with BDD. I'm your host, BDD, aka Brooklyn Dad. Happy Friday, everybody. Happy Friday indeed. Thank you for bearing with me on that very ratchet sketch that I just put on. I hope you enjoyed it. I had fun pulling it together. I'm glad to get that robe and hat off me because it is hot up in this piece. Anyway, yeah, happy Friday, and I'm very glad that you all joined me here. I saw a comment by Tina Bradford, which I wish I had incorporated that into the skit. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Let's just pretend that after I finish reading his idiotic rules, that I threw that on the end. Thank you for the attention to this matter. It would have been great. So we got some stuff to get into. I wonder how many of you will be attending the No Kings March tomorrow. I'm very curious to see. Oh, look at this. We had a new person all the way at the top here. Dale E. Newspaper, 100% behind this peaceful demonstration. Dale, thank you for your comment. And you've beat out some very powerful regulars here. So welcome. And Sox Buchanan, excuse me. Sox Buchanan, excuse me, Valerie G, Meredith Powell, Joanne Kennedy is here, Bernadette H is here. Zelda, of course. See, Zelda is usually our is our person at the top. She's almost always first, but we gonna cut her some slack. She actually doesn't like to always be first. So let's see. Meredith Powell is here. Rose Cologne is here. Sharon Landry. You guys have a lot of crosstalk here in the comments. Monique Lee, I see you, my friend. Shelby is here. Watcher Soko is here. Taboo Forte is here. All right, guys, I'm not going to scroll through these comments for too long. Tina Bradford, I saw you before. Gary Piacentini reposted the stream. Thank you for that, my friend. Meredith said, make wigs great again. Fun fact, I used to wear wigs on this show like all the time. Back in the day. Blue Lady is here. Blue Lady, thank you for the $2. Appreciate that. Wilbur McCarthy wants to know, did you notice the perfect unblemished ear in the time photo? I did see that. Someone on another post did like a side-by-side comparison. So that was interesting. Rose Cologne, Tracy M, a.k.a. Nurse Mitch. Love you guys. Mary Margaret Rachel is here. And let's go ahead and get started with what I like to call our stories of the day.
Stories of the day.
Okay, so our title graphic, there's a lot going on in this title here. I'm trying to not use AI like actually anymore for these covers because I was doing it and then somebody told me, I know I'm going to sound ignorant when I say this, and somebody told me that AI actually destroys the environment, that there's a lot of electricity and a lot of carbon footprint that goes towards not only is there a lot of electricity used for that, but it is part of the reason our utility bills have spiked. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't really know shit about this, but all I know is what I told, and I was stunned that that was playing a big part in my utility bill. And like some friends in my neighborhood were like, really, dude? You didn't know that? I was like, I felt foolish. Like I was just learning about the alphabet. So yeah. So I am trying now to just, this is my very rudimentary Photoshop work. It is what it is. So anyway, Mike Johnson is all over the news these days, and not in a good way. Not in a good way at all. He really is. The more you see him, the more he is exposing himself as really like the weakest speaker in history. Spineless, feckless. You pick a negative adjective to describe this guy, and it's probably pretty much spot on. Also, JD, sorry, excuse me. These pictures, these memes of JD Vance, they actually give me life. The vapid expression in his eyes, the bald, everything is hilarious. Yeah, JD Vance is the incredible shrinking man. I mean, he's a guy who is like on the surface, he's intelligent, right? Below the surface, there's nothing there. There's nothing that he believes in. He went from Trump is America's Hitler to I don't care about anything. I will support America's Hitler. That's basically who he is. And he looked in the camera at one point last year and said, yeah, sometimes I make up stories to get my point across. Like, oh, how is that? How is that not disqualifying? Anyway, he had some opinions about a really salacious, horrible group of text messages from a group of youngsters. By youngsters, I mean people in their 30s, also known as adults. Um, Things that are racist and despicable, horrible things. We'll get into it. And last but not least, there has been a full court press in the media from the right wing, the usual right wing sources, all trying to brand tomorrow's No King's Day events as, an I Hate America rally. It is nothing of the sort. Everybody attending the rallies tomorrow, with the exception of the occasional outside provocateurs, and there probably will be a lot sprinkled across the country, just letting you know. So be on your P's and Q's. But yeah, MAGA and Republicans are afraid, deadly afraid of this rally because it proves how unpopular their ideas are. And if this is your first time here watching the show, please remember to hit the subscribe and the like button. The like button looks like my thumbs up right there. And the the subscribe button is right there in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. Earlier this week, I wrote my latest Substack article. It's called "Is Trump Staging Antifa Attacks for Power?" Can I just tell you guys before I continue how exhausting it is trying to figure out what is a psyop and what is real life? What am I looking at a naturally occurring phenomenon? Is what I am watching happening in real life, or is somebody orchestrating these events? Because more and more often, I'm doubting it. Like for instance, that somebody mentioned the ear thing, the ear in the Time magazine cover, and how perfect that ear looks. And I've seen probably I'm not imagining this. I've seen at least 6 different videos this week alone of people talking about Donald Trump's ear. They're talking about the Butler incident and how unrealistic it was. They're talking about how the Secret Service, after Donald Trump was supposedly shot, they're guiding photographers and lowering the flag on a crane into the shot so that they can get that picture. That's insane. That's wild. So anyway, that's why I don't want to occupy that space where I have to question everything, but increasingly so that is the case. And that brings me back to this this article about Antifa, because last week, in fact, the past 2 or 3 weeks, there has been another full court press attempting to smear Antifa. First of all, where is the Antifa headquarters? Can anybody tell me that? Who is the leader of Antifa? Is it Captain America? Is it the Black Panther in Wakanda? Is it George Soros, that 90-something-year-old billionaire man who nobody ever sees, but everybody assumes he is paying millions of people to march? It doesn't make any sense. Like, wait, who's cutting like 5 million checks to go at, like, who's doing that, right? What? Anyway, let me continue. There has been a full court press to try to brand Antifa as some kind of violent insurrectionists. The only violent insurrectionists I know of were pardoned by Donald Trump after attacking the United States Capitol. Anyway, for all we know, the guys playing dress up as ICE are getting overtime play dressing up as Antifa. Guys, this is an excerpt from my article, in case you didn't know. In fact, I have zero doubt that Trump's thugs are precisely who will choreograph scenes of violence. Pay attention. Just like in Minneapolis, just like the Biden 2020 on the garage. Some of you may remember that somebody in Minnesota spray painted Biden 2020 on their garage, and then they put an A inside a circle, which is the logo for anarchy. There ain't no anarchist worth a dime is going to support Joe Biden or any president because they're anarchists, you know. And the umbrella man. And if this is a space safe for me to say what I'm thinking, and I think it is, I think this space is safe enough. That thing that happened in Butler, PA also seemed like a convenient attack that certainly did not help Democrats. Why else let Trump stand up and expose his entire upper body for that stupid fist pump unless they already knew that the coast was clear? It was a very short period of time. It was like 30 seconds. And in that 30 seconds, you could hear Donald Trump saying, wait, my shoe. Like he's concernicus about his shoe after supposedly being shot and bleeding. And his hat, I think. I seem to recall him talking about his hat. And then he stood up and surrounded by Secret Service, they let him show his head just in case the sniper, the other sniper, because they shot one apparently. They didn't confirm that a second one was there or a third one was there. Out in the open, you're just letting him expose himself? That's ridiculous. Seriously ridiculous. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat, you're looking at that and you're saying, they should all be fired. They should never work in any security capacity ever again. In my opinion, they are trying to cultivate an atmosphere of danger, one that only an authoritarian strongman like Trump can keep America safe from. He will bring down the hammer on those savage Antifa criminals. The danger behind their play acting is that they are actually looking for a scapegoat and a pretext to escalate the military occupation in our liberal cities. Trump has sent the National Guard to Los Angeles, Portland, and Chicago under the false pretense of wanting to solve crime against the wishes of each state's governors. So here's the crazy thing, right? You know, if you want to help solve crime in these states and cities where the governors and the mayors, they're like, hey, wait, you know, our crime rates have been going down. You know, I don't care. I'm going to send it anyway because I know what's best for you. Never set foot into your city, but I'm going to send these National Guard. So he's not understanding that no means no. First of all, everybody knows why he doesn't accept no means no. But secondly, states' rights. Anybody seem to recall when states' rights actually meant something to people on the right when they gave a shit? I remember when that was the rage, when those Second Amendment people, when you got into debates after a mass shooting, you got into a debate with a 2A person, and they were like, yeah, I gotta have my guns in case we have a tyrannical government. If we got a tyrannical government, we gonna need to stop them. That's why I got my guns. I'm sorry. I hate to tell you this, you know. I mean, I understand the concept that you want to be able to defend yourself, but it's the government, right? you only have but so much ammo. You are maybe you have four other people in your home who can pick up that gun and load it and defend themselves, you know, but eventually you're going to run out. And that's that. I'm not saying don't, but my golly. Anyway, the whole discussion about Second Amendment, you know, originally it meant an organized militia, a well-regulated militia, not just every Joe Blow rando across the country who has enough money to illegally buy a gun at a gun show to avoid the loopholes. Boy, I'm losing my train of thought here. So I was talking about Antifa and how the government, not the government, but how Republicans are trying to paint Antifa as, this boogeyman, this thing to be afraid of. It's, Antifa was your grandpa and your grandma when they were in the war in World War II, and fighting the Nazis. That was Antifa. Antifa was a thing that was started back in actually in Nazi Germany. Somebody coined the phrase Antifa is short for like Antifa Barugen Saken or whatever it was. It was like a long word. And it just means anti is against and fa is shortened for fascism. That's it. I wonder, sometimes I wonder, like, did they demonize Antifa because maybe it sounds ethnic? Antifa. They think it sounds like some kind of like, I don't know, El Salvadorian revolutionary, Viva Antifa! My goodness. Anyway, hey, I see Simon Metcalf. I see you there, buddy. He's trying to sneak in here. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, let's get back to this thing. All right, so let's talk about why Mike Johnson is pulling this bullshit and refusing to swear in Rep Grijalva. I believe it's Adelita Grijalva. She won last month, right? She won her special election a month ago. Swear her in, bro. So everybody knows that the reason that she's not being sworn in is because of the guy in the photo in the center of this picture, Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein had, Donald Trump is implicated in those files. And the longer they hold out on releasing it, like the worse it is in my head. Like I can only imagine, right? If it was even just like, let's say he was just hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein, but wasn't doing anything. There is a very slim 1% possibility of that. If he could prove that he was just, around and not necessarily doing the heinous stuff, why hold out? Why not just release it? Protect the names of the victims. Release the files. Release them. As you promised. These Republicans, they love to say, the MAGA, they love to say, oh, you didn't care about it when Joe Biden was in office. Actually, we cared about it when he was when Jeffrey Epstein was first arrested and put in jail, and before he was Epsteined. And when he was Epsteined, and you know what I mean when I say when he was Epsteined, that made it look suspicious. Like, a high value inmate who was previously on suicide watch. Suddenly the cameras, and he's a billionaire, mind you, he had stuff that could implicate very powerful people. And he's suddenly, poof, gone. Camera's not working. Oh, well. And then years later, Donald Trump, thinking that he can capitalize on these boobs on the right, get them all ginned up. Looks like they hate pedophiles. We'll set them against Jeffrey Epstein. And didn't realize that he was all over those Epstein files. They had 1,000 agents pouring through those files, flagging his name wherever it occurred. That's crazy. And then Pam Bondi went from saying, I have it right on my desk, I'm about to go look at it, to saying, there are no files. There is no list. What? What? Then Donald Trump went from saying, I'm going to release all these files, to saying they don't exist. It's a hoax, and anybody who cares about it is stupid, and I don't want your support anymore. Then he went from saying that to saying that it was planted. Then he went from saying that to saying that Obama and Hillary Clinton created them. Just every fucking crazy thing you could possibly say about it, he said it. And then he just like, let's go. Let's I can't shake these things off. Let's bomb Iran. Let's bomb some people, some boats in international waters. Anything he could possibly think of, except, releasing the damn files. Give me a second here. Okay. So anyway, fast forward to today, where Rep. Adelita Grijalva has not yet been sworn in, and Mike Johnson is changing his excuses for not swearing her in. Every day it's a different thing. Today he ordered the House to leave DC and remain in their home districts from October 20th to October 26th. So, mind you, they have not been in session this whole entire time. He's keeping them away. Isn't that strange, folks? Come on, it's not just me. Zelda, my friend, you are terrific. Thank you so much for that kind, very generous donation. We so appreciate you on the show here. Thank you so much for your friendship. So yeah, this, as Call to Activism writes here, says this will make it even harder to negotiate opening the government. And then he says, fuck out of here with it's the Democrats' fault. Explain this to me like I'm a child, right? The Republicans have the White House, they have the Senate, and they have the House. And not only do they control all of those things, but Donald Trump controls them. They don't make a move unless he approves. They don't make a move unless he approves. They don't make a they don't make a move unless he approves of it. So all the stuff that Mike Johnson is doing, he is orchestrating it. Why? Why is he keeping it closed? Huh? Their story is, Democrats want to give $1 trillion of health care to illegal immigrants. That's not true. That's not even legal. And they know it. They know it. It's in black and white. It's in black and white. It's been read on TV dozens of times already. It's ridiculous. The only reason that they won't reopen the House is because Adelita Grijalva is the 218th vote needed. Oh, here, I have a video. Let's see. Ra-ta-ta-ta-ta. Ta-ra-ta-ta-ta-ta. Where is it? Storytime. There she is. Okay. Let me do this. Share screen. Here we go. Let's listen to Representative AOC break it down.
The only people who are not in Washington, D.C. are the over 200 elected Republicans in the House of Representatives, because Speaker of the House Mike Johnson refuses to call the House in session. He refuses to also seat Adelita Grijalva because they want to prevent the 218th signature on release of the Epstein files as well.
Can I ask you on that?
The only people who are not in Washington, D.C.
Okay, it's pretty straightforward. I love how she says Adelita Grijalva. That's very nice. Joanne Kennedy says they hate to work. I think it's more than that. I think it's more than just they don't like to work. I think that they are actively trying to run cover for Donald Trump, which is weird because last I heard, right? Oh yeah, sorry. Okay, so there's a guy on the Republican side named Thomas Massey, and Thomas Massey is in favor. He's one of those few Republicans who are in favor of exposing these Epstein files. It's like Thomas Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene, for some reason, is making sense these days. That frightens me. And some other few thing, and then the rest is Democrats. Republicans are pretty, for the most part, are pretty unified in trying to keep a lid on this. Why? Because Donald Trump is the glue that's keeping their shit together. What happens if Donald Trump is exposed in the way that we think he will be exposed? What happens if it's revealed that, yes, indeed, he was complicit, he was involved, he was doing all the nasty things you imagine that he did, confirmed because it's in those files? Then what? Then maybe MAGA is finished. Maybe that's the end of MAGA. And if that's the end of MAGA, you've got maybe half of those people in Congress right now. Republican senators and congressmen got to find something else to do. So yeah, they are fighting for their political lives. And so now let's talk about JD Vance, because recently I've been very amused by the they've taken his face and memized it, right? They made it a little chubbier. For some reason, they've toned down the mascara on his eyes. But yeah, they've made him look very unusual, including on the far left here, lower left. There's JD Vance in South Park as Tattoo from Fantasy Island. The one where he's wearing the green coat and holding Trump's head as a balloon. That took me out. That took me out indeed. So anyway, what's not funny about JD Vance is the way he can look at the camera and lie as if, as if he was telling the truth. He lies with confidence. He lies with the certainty that his lies will not be contradicted. He's like a sociopath, and it's alarming. It is very alarming because, again, Donald Trump is old. He's probably had multiple strokes by now, multiple, I believe. And so that puts JD Vance a heartbeat away from the presidency. Now, as long as he's able to continue lying flawlessly the way he does, and he gets very little pushback from people. I'm going to show you a quick clip of him talking with what's that guy's name? Jake Tapper. Can't stand him. Jake Tapper. Oh no, I don't have him talking to Jake Tapper. I have Mike Johnson talking to Jake Tapper. But before I go any further, let me just play this Jake Tapper thing with Mike Johnson because it had to do with the Adelita
moment
Grijalva
for
thing.
her to be sworn in to fill her constituents having elected representation. She was elected to fill his seat. This move is delaying her constituents having elected representation. It's also denying her a moment for her to be sworn in to fill her late father's role. And look, I know you a little bit. That must bother you. Isn't it time just to swear her in already?
No, because so much of what you just summarized there is not accurate. Let me tell you what is accurate about it. First of all, I'm following the Pelosi precedent. When my dear friend and colleague from Louisiana, Julia Letlow, was elected under very similar circumstances in 2021, her late husband passed away, died of COVID, and they had a special election to fill the seat, and Julia won it. Nancy Pelosi took 25 days to administer the oath to Julia. Now, we didn't have press conferences and go banging on doors and make a big thing of it because we understood that is the regular.
No, you didn't make a big fuss about it because there was nothing at stake. There was nothing happening right then. 2021, it was Joe Biden was just getting started. Nobody gave a shit what was happening right now, right? There was no clock ticking. There was no government shutdown in progress, right? There was no crucial vote that representative was needed for. A Pelosi precedent, give me a fucking break. The other day, he said it was because he said when the situation was similar to a Republican who was just signed in and the House was not in regular order, they bent the rules to swear this Republican in because, oh, she called her family and her family was there in DC. So heavens to Murgatroyd, what are we going to do? We'll just swear her in. What's the big deal, right? So what's the big deal about swearing in Adelita Grijalva? The big deal is she is vote number 218. That's what the big deal is. Anyway, getting back to to JD Vance. JD Vance was asked about this scandal from the Young Republicans. Young Republicans is a group of young Republicans. They're not teeny boppers, right? They're not children. They're not 15 and 14-year-old. These are grown folks here. And they were involved in these chat rooms. And one is like, I love Hitler. And another one says, everyone that votes no is going to the gas chamber. And they're saying some anti-Semitic stuff. And I'd go to the zoo if I wanted to watch monkey play ball. Obviously, they're talking about Black people playing basketball. They love the watermelon people. This is a horrible, horrible, horrible text chain. And I'm not going to read all of these comments. But suffice it to say that JD Vance is fully on the side of saying, oh, well, these are just young boys. And you can't ruin the lives of these young boys for just saying silly nonsense things. That's all it is. It's just silly locker room talk. It's nothing. It's nothing to concern yourself about. It's so silly. What are you even talking about? They're talking about Hitler and rape and other stuff. It's horrendous. Now, excuse me, but you Republicans went on this very sanctimonious mission to go after all of the heads of universities because you said that they didn't do enough to make their Jewish students feel safe. Okay? So then you cared about anti-Semitism. But when it's your own, young people or whatever, your own congressional staffers saying the most abysmal shit, you can't come out and denounce it? I know I would. I would in a heartbeat. I don't care if you got a D or an R behind your name. I don't care. If you say shit that's foul, you should be held accountable for it. Here's some of the leaked messages young Republicans were sending in group chats. So the guy on the far left, Peter Giunta, says, great, I love Hitler. Oh, he's the one who made the gas chamber comment. Joe Maligno says, can we fix the showers? Gas chambers don't fit the Hitler aesthetic. And so forth and so on. These things are nasty. Nasty, nasty, nasty. They are inexcusable. And these are grown people. Not one of these is a teenager. Okay. Some of them are in their 30s. So the party that used to be all about personal responsibility is completely throwing their hands up and abdicating all personal responsibility where they should be demanding people atone for their misdeeds, at the very least. So, moving on. Some misdeeds to be atoned for by John Bolton. Right now, he's looking at he's just been indicted. Just the other day, John Bolton, one of several people who was mentioned by name in what Donald Trump believed was a DM and turned out to be a Truth Social blast post. John Bolton is being held to account for information that he had that he used to write his book, The Room Where It Happened. Now, I remember when John Bolton was promoting this book, I was mad as hell at him. I was like, you mean to tell me you had all this shit you were sitting on and you could have shared it and it could have meant something and now it's meaningless? You were just saving all that shit sitting on it so you could sell a book? Disgusting. And I'm sorry, I don't even have good news for you on the book. Like, I wish I could say he only sold 5 books. No, that dude sold like 780,000 books in the first week. Insane. So the message to other people who would think about sitting on that information for a big payday, well, that's the message there. But Trump is targeting him for political retribution by way of the Department of Justice. Breaking: former Trump NSA advisor and frequent critic John Bolton has just been indicted. Frequent Trump critic. After targeting him and other enemies, Trump says he's a bad guy. Too bad. That's the way it goes. And America is now a banana republic, because it was just the other day, that he he publicized this hit list. Excuse me. And there's more people that he's spoken about publicly in the Oval Office when reporters ask about. And, so John Bolton is yet another one of those people. And this should concern us. It doesn't concern me because I think John Bolton is a great guy. I don't think he's a great guy. In fact, John Bolton is that fucker who couldn't even bring himself to say on TV that he said he couldn't vote for Donald Trump, right? And we were like, oh, that's a relief. Then they asked him, "You're going to vote for Kamala Harris?" Like, no, I can't do that either. Oh, I'm just going to write something in. Dude, come on. You're a grown man. You know what that means. Not only does he know what that means, but he created the what do they call it? Permission structure for other like-minded idiots to write a name in. So hence, Donald Trump did not crack. He didn't crack 50%. But Kamala Harris was less like 1% behind him. It was that close. And, do I think his comments maybe resulted in her getting 1% fewer votes? Who knows? It could have been anything. It could have been the people who were upset about the war in Gaza, and and the American government's refusal to stop sending Israel weapons to murder these Palestinians. That's a whole nother issue. I'm very disappointed. I mean, frankly, I'm disappointed, in Joe Biden that he didn't put a stop to it. He should totally put a stop to it. If you're gonna be brave about something, let it be brave about saving some lives. Anyway, I digress because I don't need to talk about Joe Biden because Donald Trump does that enough for all of us. Donald Trump talks about Joe Biden more than baseball commentators talk about baseball. He talks about Joe Biden almost as much as he talks about himself. So yeah, John Bolton has been now added to the ever-growing list of Trump enemies that he's targeting, and that's not pictured here is Lisa Cook, and other people that he's going after, whether it's through the Department of Justice or whether it's them being fired, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, Joanne Kennedy said, or Obama, but he doesn't even talk about Obama as much as he talks about Joe. He talks about Joe like all the time. He probably says Joe's name in his sleep. So let's move on to this No King's Day here, right? So people have been in my replies saying, what's the big deal with this No King's Day thing? It seems ridiculous. It's because, if Donald Trump were a king, then you couldn't say half of the shit that you say about him online. You couldn't go and protest him in the streets. You are correct. Okay. First time in your life you were right about something. But to say that we should have nothing to worry about, Donald Trump has been obsessed with dictators, with people who have unquestioned authority. His role model is Vladimir Putin and other dictators. He doesn't care for democracy at all. He doesn't care to have people disagreeing with the things that he says. This fake Time magazine picture is from this year. It's from February 2025. That the official White House accounts, plural, posted. They posted on Instagram. They posted on Twitter. They probably posted on Facebook too, because that reaches millions and millions of people. And the text, it says, congestion pricing is dead. Manhattan and all of New York is saved. Long live the king. Long live the king, it says. Here are some other quotes that Donald Trump has said in the past, several years. When somebody is the president of the United States, the authority is total. And that's the way it's got to be. That's from April 2020. June 2019, he said, I have the right to do whatever I want as president. That doesn't sound right at all. That sounds more like Richard Nixon. Sean Hannity asked him, you don't want to be a dictator, right? And then he says, except for day one. You guys remember that, right? Even Sean Hannity was trying to steer him to the light. Say, come on, brother. I'm trying to make this easy on you. You don't want to be a dictator, right? He was leading him. And he's like, no, just day one. Idiot. Here's another quote. Article 2 allows me to do whatever I want. Here's another one. We was talking about Xi Jinping. He's now president for life. No, he's great. And look, he was able to do that. I think it's great. Maybe we'll have to give that a shot someday. And now, in 2025, anytime you turn around, that motherfucker is like, yeah, I'm thinking, they're saying maybe I could try for a third term. there's an amendment, there's a constitutional amendment that says, no, you cannot. And then there are these people who are coyly, Steve Bannon and Stephen Miller, coyly on the side saying, oh, there's ways around that. Oh, really? Share those ways with us. They won't do that. But if I had to put money on it, my guess would be their goal is martial law. And how do you invoke martial law? Well, there's got to be an insurrection, because they've been talking about the Insurrection Act in the past several weeks. People are asking, well, people are saying that, the president is going to impose the Insurrection Act. Well, he has the right to, is what they say. Yeah, but really, does he? What if there's no insurrection happening? Details, schmeetails. Enter tomorrow's No King's Day events. The last time we had No King's Day, hang on. The last time we had No King's Day events, there were millions of people all across the country. Millions all across the country showing their support, showing that they don't want a king. They don't want a dictator. And that is our right as American citizens to step up, stand up, and announce what we like and what we don't like. Meredith Powell says, MAGA, we're going to storm the Applebee's and the Waffle House. But seriously, what was MAGA doing on January 6th? MAGA stormed the Capitol. That was premeditated. There were people who had T-shirts printed, Civil War 2.0. There were people who showed up with zip ties and bear spray. And, you're not going to a peaceful protest with bear spray, zip ties. Some people had guns. And Donald Trump wasn't even concerned about the people with guns. Why? Because he said, well, they're not here for me. This is what we learned from the January 6th investigation. So yeah, we had millions of people all over showed up, right? So to announce that there must be no criticism of the president, or that we are to stand by the president, right or wrong, is not only unpatriotic and servile, but it is morally treasonable to the American public. That is a famous quote by none other than President Theodore, aka Teddy Roosevelt. Good president. He was a Republican. Yeah, he's basically, what that means is the most patriotic thing you can do is criticize the president, criticize the government. That was the idea. That was the belief that America was established on. In the first place, we left England because we didn't want a king. We left England and came here because we didn't want the church to have so much influence on our lives. They did separation of church and state. And now these guys are trying to undo all of that shit. What if I told you MAGA is terrified of the No Kings protest because it exposes how outnumbered they really are? And it's true. MAGA is a cult, right? They are a splinter of the Republican Party. MAGA is not the whole Republican Party. MAGA is just a piece of it. I would say not even half. I would say 30%. 30% of the Republican Party is MAGA. They're loud, but it's just 30% of the Republican Party. Now, the Republican Party is roughly somewhere between 27 and 30% of the nation's electorate, the nation's voters. So MAGA is 30% of 30%. So yeah, they are outnumbered. They are outnumbered by a lot. And when you see comments like, what's this woman here? Caroline Levitt. She had some of the most reprehensible things to say about Democrats. It's not very helpful if you're talking about toning down the rhetoric. Just listen to what Caroline Levitt, the White House press secretary, had to say about Democrats. Mind you, this is in the wait a minute. Do I not have it? I swore I had it. Damn you! Okay, give me a second here. I have it here. There it is.
That the Democrat Party's main constituency are made up of Hamas terrorists, illegal aliens, and violent criminals. That is who the Democrat Party is catering to, not the Trump administration and not the White House and not the Republican Party.
First of all, it's the Democratic Party. They keep saying the Democrat Party. It's like a slap in the face. They love to call people outside their names, not use their correct names or nomenclature or whatever.
That the Democrat Party's main constituency are made up of Hamas terrorists, illegal aliens, and violent criminals.
Hamas terrorists? Really? Really? You're equating us with terrorists? That makes no sense, Caroline. Come on. Come on. We know you're talking to people on Fox News, but honestly, you're the press secretary. You know that your comments are going to be seen elsewhere, right? You're talking about little old ladies, little old grandmas that are like 80, 90 years old. Grandpas, what is the deal with that? That's insane. Now, if that is meant to be some kind of tit for tat thing because we're referring to Donald Trump as a fascist, well, it's not quite the same, is it? Because to say that we're Hamas terrorists or we support Hamas, that's bullshit, right? Where they're trying to equivocate is that people on our side support Palestinians not being genocided, right? Not being murdered, feeding starving children who are on the verge of dying because Israel wouldn't let food aid in. But to say that we support not killing them en masse, to say that that's equivalent to supporting Hamas, that's stupid. Come on. Come on. That's right, Asmila J. They have no shame. And say violent criminals? Come on. Come on. It's ridiculous. So they are throwing out every bit of propaganda, every bit of just violent rhetoric to turn the temperature up. Why? Because right now, Republicans need there to be a violent interaction tomorrow at our parade. And I'm here to tell you guys, we cannot afford that, right? We were successful in orchestrating peaceful protests the last time we had a No Kings March. All over the country, more than 2,000 cities participated in this and successfully orchestrated peaceful protests everywhere. So you guys who attend, you're going to have to hold it down. You're going to have to, if you see something about to jump off, if you see somebody trying to throw bottles, tell them to stop. Point them out to organizers, to authorities. Nip that shit in the bud quick, because there will be people there who do not represent us, who do not represent our needs and our goals. They just want to fuck shit up. And unfortunately, what helps them is that a lot of these people will wear those helmets. You know how ICE has their faces covered? Who's to say that these same people who are throwing tear gas in Portland and in Chicago aren't the same people who are going to try to throw tear gas or bottles or bricks in some city somewhere? The problem with this being such a big, sprawling national event is that it is going to be hard to isolate incidents of violence and keep people from doing that. I think overall, generally speaking, if this is happening mostly during the day, I think that it is a safe bet that most of those outside instigators will stay away. Because why? There's going to be so many phones and cameras out there. So many. If you see something, people are going to hold their phones up and they're going to get you. They're going to have you on video. So stop with the bullshit. All right. And I would say desperation propaganda. Yeah, Sharon Landry. Exactly. That's what it is. That's what it is. The only way they can detract from our message, our peaceful message of fuck you and your desire to turn Trump into a king, the only way they can detract from that is to have somebody throw shit into our parades, our marches, or whatever. So resist. And let's see, does anybody have any question for me? Is everybody here going to the march tomorrow? Johnny says, everyone be safe tomorrow. And record everything, Johnny Bravo. Right on point. Thank you, sir. Thank you for that. Oh, Blue Lady says, we had de-escalation training for No Kings. We know how to be peaceful. We know to have our phones out. We have a police liaison. We're ready. That's what I like to hear. That's good. That's good. Food for Thought says they're going to Princeton. Good on you, my friend. Good on you. Shelby says hubby's coming with her tomorrow. Tina Bradford is going. Carla Nicole, yes, and Callie. Meredith Powell is going to be in Logan, Utah. This is wonderful. This is absolutely wonderful. So the only other thing I have to say, I did not have time to set up my slides for movies that I have watched and that I plan to watch. But one movie that I watched this past week was The Black Phone, and it stars Ethan Hawke and a bunch of kids that I wasn't familiar with. And it was a surprisingly good horror movie in that, yeah, it had some scary stuff. Not even so many jump scares, but just legit. It had a good way of building the tension and building the fear or whatever. It had some terrific leads, young leads, a boy and a girl, brother and sister. They were like 14 and 11. Fantastic movie. I actually highly recommend that. I don't highly recommend many horror movies because I've mostly been very disappointed by them, but this was excellent. A movie I'm planning on watching tonight is on Netflix. Oh, and that Black Phone was on Peacock. And the reason I watched it is because Black Phone 2 is coming out. And I'm not going to spoil anything for you, but I was surprised to see that there is a sequel to that. Excuse me. On Netflix, there's a movie called The Woman in Cabin 10, and it's a mystery. that takes place on a boat, on a yacht. I believe it's a super yacht. It's a luxurious super yacht. So I look forward to that. And if I have time this weekend, it'll be another movie called Honey Don't. And it's starring Chris Evans, Captain America, Charlie Day from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Aubrey Plaza from Parks and Rec, and I forget the name of the young woman who was in that movie, The Substance, with Demi Moore. She did well. I don't know her name. I'm sorry. So that's what I have on tap movie wise. Ra-ta-ta-ta-ta. Oh, Meredith Powell saw the Black Phone. And they're going to see the sequel on Sunday. Nice. Okay, you guys, thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Storytime with BDD. I'm your host, BDD, aka Brooklyn Bad. If you missed the beginning skit with the King, be sure to watch the replay afterwards. And yes, of course, Carla is pizza and wings every Friday night. Yeah, be sure to rewatch the first 5 or 10 minutes of the show. I had fun doing it. It's silly, but it was fun. So I look forward to seeing you guys all here next week, same time, same place. I love you all. Peace.